Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel where we've got your indie games covered, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new indie that just came to the Switch called Airheart. And in relation to its Switch release, I am super happy to announce that the Switch version actually is the best version of the game. And that's not just because I'm such a fan of the Switch, it's because the Switch version actually has a new play mode that wasn't released on PS4, Xbox, or Steam. But before I get into those details, let's actually take a look at the story. While Airheart is definitely based, at least its main character, on the actual physical person Amelia Earhart, the setting for this game is the fantastical world of Granaria. And Granaria, in short, is a beautifully rendered 3D concept of an island nation that is floating in the sky. And with a general population that subsists off of junking, scavenging, and sky fishing, if you're a fan of animes like Exile or the early cartoons like TaleSpin, you might already be falling in love with this game. As Amelia, you're not satisfied with your low status existing on the lowest levels of this sky world, and as such it's been your dream to fight your way to the highest levels of the stratosphere to harpoon yourself the mythical sky whale. And while that motivation to become the best whaler in the skies might not hold that much power for some players, the gameplay itself actually is really captivating. While there is obvious value in the incredible beauty of this fully 3D rendered world, its gameplay as a twin-stick shooter definitely is enriched by a unique crafting system and some unique combat elements that have been introduced as well. However, as a roguelike or a roguelite adventure, this is definitely a stage-by-stage type game progression. And one of the areas where the game developers' innovations really shines is how you progress through these games. Initially, you start off at the lowest levels of this sky world, trying to progress higher and higher with every level that you climb. And at each level, there's one sky elevator that can grant you access to the higher and higher levels. The higher you manage to climb, the more valuable the fish you'll be able to catch, but the valuable bounty on these fish has also attracted sky pirates. And very quickly, the higher you go, this twin-stick shooter can turn into a full-on bullet hell. And not only will the one or two pirates you may encounter at the lower levels turn into incredible swarms of sky pirates, but between world transition areas, there are massive sky fortresses that you'll have to figure out how to take down. And this is where the uniqueness of the combat system really gets a chance to shine. Enemies aren't just little pilots that buzz around you, but they can be sky outposts, as well as battleships or even massive fortresses. And each one can be decked out with supplemental shields, as well as fuel tanks, and multiple guns one on top of the other. But as you are a sky fisher, you're not only equipped with some defensive and offensive weaponry, you're also equipped with a harpoon that can be used in a really awesome way. Harpooning enemy armor, you can rip it off, as well as their guns and fuel tanks. But you can also harpoon enemy aircraft to sling them into other aircraft, destroying both at once, or you can even harpoon blind spots in enemy battleships and just wail on them until they're destroyed. Additionally, if you do manage to use that harpoon to tear off a really valuable turret or a piece of armor, you can take that back down to your shop with you to salvage later. And this is where Airheart introduces a nearly RPG element with its crafting system. Pretty much everything that you blow up and every enemy pilot you manage to take down is going to leave you some form of scrap. And while the earliest forms of scrap are literally just pieces of scrap, the higher you go, you might get more rare elements. Pieces of glass, certain plastics, and even electronic control systems are some things you can find way further up in the game. And while there aren't any explicit recipes to follow to know exactly what you're getting into when you experiment with certain items, the game does highly reward players for playing around and trying to create something new. Additionally, toward the bottom of the screen where Amelia's ideas are displayed, there's a series of dots above each icon and a series of dots below. The dots below are sometimes color-coded to indicate which category of item might be used, and the dots above are a bit of a trial and error system letting you know if a particular piece would have worked, or to show you which of the 3 to 5 pieces of scrap might not be working to construct this item. So more or less, this crafting system built on equal parts of luck, logic, and trial and error almost becomes a mini-game in and of itself. But unlike pulling in bounties from fish or the occasional oil tank, the parts that you craft are used directly for the airplane that you fly. Whether you're inventing guns, new wings, a new fuselage for higher HP, or new engine upgrades for higher mobility and speed, every new part that you can construct in your little workshop will drastically improve your gameplay. However, if you're more into the destruction twin-stick shooter side of the gameplay than the RPG-like crafting element, you can always just buy plain upgrades at the shop. And this is just my 2 cents, but if you spend a little time grinding early in the game, you can buy a super tanky hull that's going to rocket you several levels up ahead just by having that extra HP. And as this is a roguelike game, getting destroyed definitely has some consequences. When returning to base, all you have to do is press the down directional button and hold it until you engage an autopilot back to your shop. However, you will have to dodge the obstacles from all the previous levels you've managed to fly through, and there is potential to take damage here. But if you were to have been shot down, not only could some of your equipment be damaged, damaged, but if you do take even more damage on some of these floating islands, you could potentially lose a lot of your hull or even your ship. But this is actually where the developers consider the player a lot. There are multiple game modes and even multiple control modes depending on what type of player you are. If you're in it to win it for the devastatingly challenging permadeath type system, you can play on a full roguelike mode. However, if you're in it as a twin stick shooter and you don't really enjoy the permadeath system, you don't have to play that way. Additionally, if you're used to playing games like Rocket League, you probably want to use a relative control scheme for your piloting controls, but everyone else is going to want to use absolute, meaning that left always means left and right always means right. And while the care and consideration the developers had for the players is definitely evident in their 3D renderings and their amazing soundtrack that changes as you progress through the game, another unique element of this game that at least Switch players can take advantage of is a multiplayer mode. And yes, this is the advantage about having Airheart on the Switch that you can't take advantage of on PC, Xbox, or PS4. Switch is the only console that does have an up to 4-player multiplayer mode, so that you can play through this game and wreck the skies with friends. And while I couldn't actually take advantage of the multiplayer mode for myself, because let's be honest, my dog is pretty much a novice when it comes to twin stick shooters, I can easily see how having a 4-player local co-op mode really enhances the value of the game. And even though I definitely have a lot more that I want to talk about this game, that does about wrap up the review of Airheart, now released on multiple consoles, but best on the Switch. So if you enjoyed the review or found the video helpful, feel free to throw me a like or a comment to show your support, and don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. New and unique indies are coming out literally every day, so there's always going to be something new to find right here. But if you want to catch a little hint about what reviews might be coming up next, feel free to follow us on Twitter. But anyway, this has been Budget Gamer, so as always, thanks for watching.